Hey guys, what's up? It's Kevin for the win, and we're back for another edition of Diablo 3. Today on the channel, we are taking a look at the Unhallowed Essence set armor for the Demon Hunter class. This is a pretty good, almost S-tier type build armor, so let's get right into it. Unhallowed Essence, 2-piece. Your generators generate 2 additional hatred, 1 discipline. 4-piece, gain 6,000 damage reduction, deal 6,000 increased damage for 8 seconds if no enemy is within 10 yards of you. 6-piece bonus, your generators, Multishot, and Vengeance deal 350% increased damage for every point of Disciple you have. So there it is. As you can see, it's a Multishot build for all intents and purposes. We're mostly going to be using, as you see here, a full set of Unhallowed Essence. However, to augment its power, we are using Captain Crimson. 2-piece, 6,000 life per second, reduces cooldown of all skills by 20%, reduces all resource costs by 20%, 3-piece damage is increased by your percentage of cooldown reduction, damage taken is reduced by your percentage of cost reduction. So definitely in your benefit to run this particular belt and pants to be able to augment your power tremendously. Obviously, in terms of optimization, you want to put cooldown and cost reduction to be able to get the maximum benefit. From there, you want to use the Restraint and Focus rings. This way, you will get, when you hit with a resource generator attack or primary skill, deal 50% increased damage for 5 seconds. 2-piece bonus, when you hit with a resource spending attack, deal 50% increased damage for 5 seconds. So you want both of these rings to be able to get that. Wraps of Clarity, your hatred generators reduce your damage taken by 50% for 5 seconds. Squirts Necklace, basically what this states is, when you are not taking damage, you deal 100% increased damage. When you take damage, you do 50% less damage. We're going to use Dawn and Dead Man's Legacy for our weapons. That way we can power up Multishot and Vengeance. For the skills, Evasive Fire Invigoration, or Preparation Invigoration, excuse me, Volt, Tumble, Companion, Wolf Companion, Vengeance, Darkheart. Multishot Arsenal, which is where all your source of damage is coming from. Thrill of the Hunt, Call of the Week, Ballistics, and Ambush are for your passives. In the Kanai's Cube, Yang's Recurve, Depth Diggers, Ring of Royal Grandeur. If you want, you could switch Dawn into the Kanai's Cube and use Yang's Recurve. It depends which one you have an Ancient Legendary for. This is what my Paragon looks like. If you're playing Seasonal, you want to have access to this type of Paragon. You'll have to grind for that. So keep that in mind. For the follower, my recommendation, Broken Crown, Flavor of Time, Nemesis Bracers. Those free emanate abilities are very helpful as you're clearing through Grey Rift. Everything else is just kind of an afterthought. For the purpose of this showcase, we are going to do a Greater Rift 60, a Greater Rift 70, a Greater Rift 80. That way you can see how this armor performs from Torment 13 going into Torment 16 difficulty. So, this is going to rip through shreds. Obviously, based on the way the armor works, the farther away you are from enemies, the more damage that you are going to deal. So, the first thing, when we do load up into this Greater Rift that you're going to see, is you're going to want to fire off your multi-shots. The farther away you are, the more damage you're going to do. Anytime you feel like you're running out of multi-shots, basically your hatred is running low, that's when you're going to want to pop an evasive fire so that you could get back your resources so you could just fire off again. This is one of those particular armors where keeping away and keeping your distance helps tremendously. One of the reasons, or one of the skills that will help you tremendously as to getting the distance you need to fire from far off areas is your Volt. Your Volt is here to get distance from you and the enemy. It's also there to dodge you out of particularly bad situations that happen. So like AoE effects where monsters are exploding, AoE effects where the Hydras are exploding, cold effects, poison effects, laser effects. All those things you want to try to avoid to your best ability, you use Volt. Now, as for Vengeance, my recommendation is you're going to want to use it if you feel like you're taking a lot of damage. You want to use it if you're burning through your resources too quickly and need to get back it very fast. Other than that, I would reserve it for super tanky elite packs, or if you're playing higher up in the Greater Rifts, maybe that's when you're going to really want to pop it. Also pretty good to save it for your Rift Guardian. Now, in terms of optimization for this armor, what should you be striving for to obtain the same type of success that you see currently on screen? Well, for starters, like I mentioned before, since this is a Captain Crimson set, where we're using 2 pieces of Captain Crimson with Ring of Royal Grandeur, it is in your benefit to have cooldown reduction wherever possible on this particular build. So all pieces of your gear where you could get cooldown reduction and get the highest stat roll, you definitely want to do so. 8.0% usually is about the average that you're going to get on ancient, legendary, rare pieces of your gear that have access to cooldown reduction. So definitely try to get 8.0% there. Some rings you could get as high as 10%. Again, experiment, play around with it. So definitely cooldown reduction, because you'll be able to do increased amount of damage, which will be the world of difference as to whether you clear a greater Rift 10 or a greater Rift 20. With that being said, the next thing that you want to prioritize is resource cost reduction. Resource cost reduction will basically mean that you're spending less hatred anyway for this build, which allows you to use more multi-shots without having to use your primary resource generator, that being evasive fire. So it helps in that retrospect. And on top of that, because we are, again, using Captain Crimson, we'll be able to take less amount of damage. So prioritize getting 8.0%, or whatever's the highest resource cost reduction where possible. From there, on your helm, I would recommend the stat crit hit chance 6.0%. The reason for that is the more critical hit damage you have, the better your chances of doing more damage in general, so why would you pass up on that? Subsequently, on your gloves, I would recommend these three stats: crit hit chance at least 6.0%, attack speed at least 8.0%, and a crit hit damage of 50%. Those three stats will allow you, again, to clear another 10 to 15 greater rifts. So there's no reason why you shouldn't run those three stats on your gloves. From there, obviously, you would want to put multi-shot 15% wherever possible without taking away from cooldown reduction or things of that nature. Anywhere you could get evasive fire and nerf 15%, definitely worth your benefit to try to look and invest in that retrospect as well. We're going to go back to town. We're going to look at this greater rift, see what it is. I would figure that's probably a 2-minute run if I had to take an estimate. Let's see what it is. 2 minutes and 29-second clear time, level 60 Greater Rift Tournament, 13 difficulty. We'll do this on Greater Rift 70. Same strategy as before. We're going to look towards the enemies. We're going to fire off some multi-shots every once in a while when we're burning through our hatred too quickly. We're going to use an evasive fire to send off an attack to get back some of our resources. Anytime we feel like we're running into elite packs that are just too tanky, or we might potentially take too much damage, what we will do is we will use our Dark Heart Vengeance to be able to get not only a little bit more defense, but be able to build the resources up quickly and attack a little bit faster. From there, we're going to want to volt around to find the next targets. This armor is really good at elite pack farming, where you're basically looking for elite packs. And on top of that, remember the volt is to dodge out of very sticky situations in which you might be prone to being killed by an AoE effect. Now, getting back to optimization with the armor, 15% multi-shot, 15% evasive fire. Then from there, obviously, you need to prioritize getting the highest stat of dexterity where possible, because the Demon Hunter uses dexterity. So the more dexterity you have, the more damage you're going to be able to output. So there's no reason not to try to go for the max rolls. Obviously, you're going to have to play around with the gear significantly before you're able to achieve those particular results. Remember, it's a journey. It's more about the journey than it is really necessarily about the destination. So you might as well just enjoy the ride when it comes to Diablo III. There's no real fast way to get armors. You're always going to try to perfect them and everything the sort, which is I try to hit home to a lot of people who come asking for, why can't I do this armor this quick? Why can't I get this super fast? What's a faster way to do it? I'm giving you the fastest way possible, actually, in my video content. With that being said, then, further optimization. Obviously, you want every piece of your gear. Ancient Legendary or Primal Ancient Legendary. Ancient Legendary are basically the gold border pieces of gear that you see. Primal Ancient Legendary are red borders. Red borders, Primal Ancient Legendary gear, I should say, only drops if you have cleared a Greater Rift 70 with your seasonal character. If you're playing non-seasonal, any of your characters that clears a Greater Rift 70 will allow for every character to have access to Primal Ancient Legendaries dropping. So keep that in mind. Now, keep also in mind that if you are playing Demon Hunter for Season 26 of Diablo III, which is the Embodiment of Marauder is your starter set armor, that is probably going to be your better route to go in terms of tackling on Echoing Nightmares. However, if you want to do something with speed farming, you have two options: Gears of Dreadland or Unhallowed Essence. Both armors, when you optimize them, can do significantly well. They are both really good at clearing out Greater Rifts super fast and giving you a lot of bit of mobility, which is something that particularly Marauder builds don't necessarily have, but they're very good at pushing, particularly Echoing Nightmare. So, yeah, gold borders or red border gear is what you want. Then you're going to want to augment the armor by putting in Kanai's Cube with whatever the recipe calls for, which depends on the gems. In the Demon Hunter case, it would be free Flawless Emeralds, and as well as a legendary gem that you have leveled up. Legendary gems could be obtained by clearing a Greater Rift and obviously leveling them up. For augmentations, the general from is, in general, you want to augment between level 80 to level 100 at first. If you are not struggling trying to clear higher greater rifts, then what you could do is you could augment at level 110 to 130. The higher the level of the gem, the better results that you are going to get. So it depends on how soon and how far you can push a greater rift without having to optimize or, you know, run into the struggle of leveling up the gems. Now, in terms of gems that we're going to be using in this particular build as well, we are using Bane of the Stricken. We are using Simplicity Strength, and we are using the Zay's Stone of Vengeance. Zay's Stone of Vengeance allows us to get more damage as we're attacking targets from far away, which perfectly synergizes with this armor. Simplicity Strength gives us extra damage when we're firing off our evasive fire particular skill, which, keep in mind, has also use in the 4-piece and 6-piece bonus of this particular armor as well. So, and Bane of the Stricken is good for just being able to increase the amount of damage, because if you're attacking a target multiple times, you'll get stacks of that. Alright, let's see what we got. We got Greater Rift 70, 3 minutes and 13-second clear time. I'll show you this on a Greater Rift 80. Things change up a little bit. So first and foremost, you're going to want to activate your Dark Heart Vengeance as soon as possible, because usually when you go into a Greater Rift, you're going to run into a lot of enemies trying to swarm you, and you are potentially going to take a significant amount of damage. Also, you want to get a little bit of mobility here, so that's what you want to do. Obviously, you want to save a Vengeance for when you're getting very close to dealing with the Rift Guardian, because you will need that to be able to deal with them. From there, it's again the same strategy as firing off your multi-shots from very far away. Every time your hatred is running low, you can use your evasive fire to get it back, and if you feel like you're still being threatened, you use your Vengeance Dark Heart to be able to get a bit more tanky, as well as being able to build back up your resources, case in point here, super quickly. So that's pretty much why you run the things that you do on this build. Now, in terms of leaderboard placement, where will this particular armor stand in leaderboards? Well, I don't think it's going to do necessarily the top spots. I feel like because of Echoing Nightmare, Embodiment of the Marauder, thanks to the buffs that I got in the previous season, is still pretty good, solid S-tier type of armor. Subsequently from there, it's kind of a toss-up between what's the next best armor. Some people say Gears of Dreadland, despite the fact that Hungering Arrow and the whole strafing thing has been reduced significantly, thanks to the 9th Satchel of Ciri only piercing 4 times instead of 6 times now. So, either of those two armors are pretty good for speed farming. Embodiment of Marauder is good for pushing. In terms of Echoing Nightmare, you're going to probably use Embodiment of the Marauder, maybe even Gears of Dreadland over this particular one. But this one's got kind of good options, too. The only problem with this armor is that because you're attacking a lot of targets from far away, there is a possibility that enemies are going to swarm you in higher levels of the Echoing Nightmare, which will then put you in a very big disadvantage, because obviously the more enemies you kill, the more explosions are going off, and less areas to dodge even with the Volt, which is why I probably wouldn't recommend trying this out for Echoing Nightmare for this particular season. But it is very good at pushing greater rifts in that retrospect. So that's where it pretty much stands. In terms of what armors are probably still going to do the best in the leaderboard, again, Whirlwind Barbarian. Zunimasa Poison Dart is seeing a bit of an emergence this particular season. I will be covering that later on in the week, although I did cover Zunimasa starter build, which did not focus on the Poison Dart build, but more the pet build, because that's an easier way of starting and transitioning into your seasonal journey, as opposed to Poison Dart, which is why I released that video, because I know some people were asking in the comments as to why I didn't show the Poison Dart build. It was because there's a big reason for that. It takes a lot of pieces to gear and optimizing to get it exactly usable and workable, but I will be talking about that in a later video. That's probably the last video I'm going to be doing this week for Diablo 3 content, so definitely look forward to it if you want Zunimasa Poison Dart build. But yeah, so pretty much that seems to be emerging. Embodiment of the Marauder, Whirlwind, Chantotum Veer is still seeing some pretty good. Frost Hydras, Energy Twister surprisingly doing well with Magnum Opus as well, so it's a very interesting season all around so far. When the leaderboard placement, we took out that Rift Guardian pretty easy. Pretty easy strategy there. You just want to pop your Dark Heart, then just unload multi-shot after multi-shot after multi-shot from very, very far away. Most things you're going to be able to pop pretty quickly thanks to Bane of the Stricken. You could take out the Bane of the Stricken for Bane of Trap. I wouldn't necessarily recommend it. You could also probably take out Simplicity Strength, but then you're losing a lot of value. And Evasive Fire being able to kind of break shields of certain enemies to then just fire off a multi-shot, which is why I don't necessarily recommend that. Let's identify some of this loot here if we can, and see if we got anything particularly good. I have to check those pants for Gears of Dreadland, see if that's going to be something that will be useful to us in the not too distant future. So let's just identify one more thing before we pick anything else up. Stone gauntlets, that's not particularly useful on this build. We have a Squirt's necklace that I still have to roll for things. Marauder's visage, let's identify this as well. Okay, pretty much got crap this type around. Although one of those weapons might be a better ancient legendary roll than I have. Let's look at this particular offhand. Ooh, that's bad. Augustine's. Alright, so let's level this gem up. So, right now, I could level any of these. I'm going to try the Enforcer because I am trying out a build with Marauder using Enforcer to be able, if I could get the Sentries to be a bit more even tanky and everything in the sort. So I'm trying to update a build, actually, in the process of doing this video. Let's go back to town and see what our Greater Rift number is. Probably will come in at somewhere about 3 to 4 minutes, I would say. But one can't be sure. Let's see. Greater Rift 80, 3 minutes and 11 second clear time. So if you need any more proof that this armor is really good, there it is. Okay. So that's pretty much going to do it for today's Diablo 3 video. As always, a like on this video is greatly appreciated. If you're not already subscribed to the channel, definitely consider doing so as it helps the channel grow. And I will see you for the next Diablo 3 video, which is the Immortal King's Hoda build. So stay tuned for that one. Until next time, guys.